Gee Willikers, Batman! We're at the Fiberglass Freaks Batman Museum. We're gonna go inside, check it out, and have some fun. Here's their hours. Guided tours, birthday parties, corporate events, theaters, and there is Adam West and the Batman symbol. And we'll head inside. This is the timeline of Batman Detective Comics when he first was introduced, 1939. And this is the first appearance of Batman. Batman TV show, Adventures of Batman, 1968. This is Dark Knight Returns when Batman got a little bit grittier. And this is the 1989 Batman movie, which was a smash hit with the Joker. And Batman got a little different. And this is the picture of Batman that we know today, the dark and mysterious and dangerous Batman instead of the witty, funny one. And this is Batman Returns, the sequel with Michael Keaton. And the great Batman animated series came on the air. This is when I came in as a kid, loving every second of what I saw. And you have Batman Forever, which was a campy, funny movie, but not as campy as Batman and Robin. That was a goofy rendition. We do have some posters of movies. I actually have that poster. And over here, this is Gotham City Police Headquarters. And here's the rest of the timeline. Return to the Batcave. They did a Misadventures of Adam and Bert, 2003. Batman Begins, Reshape Batman. The Dark Knight. This is one of the best portrayals of the Joker that people have seen. Dark Knight Rises. Then they made an animated Batman series continuing the story of Adam West and Burt Ward's adventures. Batman vs. Superman. A lot of people struggled with this one, but I enjoyed it myself. Justice League, I enjoyed both versions, although the first version wasn't as good. The extended version, the Snyder Vision, was much better. Batman vs. Two-Face, this was Adam West and Burt Ward, and featuring a new villain, The Batman. This is the 2022 version, starring Robert Pattinson. Then the most recent one we had was The Flash, and that had Michael Keaton returning, and we're waiting on The Batman Part 2.
Study. So the Wayne Manor study was a fun but very challenging set for us to put together, with the wainscoting all the way around, with the mitering of all those 90-degree corners. I had to source the fabric wallpaper from England to be able to get a matching pattern. And my wife Jill, that you'll be meeting in just a few minutes, she was a librarian. So Jill took it upon herself to digitally source all 130 books in the bookcase. Then I played around in Photoshop, printed them out on vinyl, wrapped them around the styrofoam blocks. Then Miss Abby, our daughter, she restored the styrofoam fish up there, made the fins and the tail and the lower jaw and the eyeball, and then hand painted all those little black dots. So what happened first inside of the study? The bat phone would start to blink and beep. Alfred the butler would dutifully answer, "I shall fetch him, sir." Then he would go off, distract Aunt Harriet. Bruce and Dick came dashing through the double doors. "Yes, Commissioner, the Mad Hatter will be right there." Robin would typically say, "Him again." And then they would flip the Shakespeare bust, hit the switch. To the bat poles. Bruce and Dick would slide down the bat poles. It went to the animated intro, commercials. When they came back, they were already dressed as Batman and Robin. Well, I, as a kid, I wanted to know, well, what happened in between? What a terrible time to cut to commercial. How did they change costumes so fast while sliding on a pole? I wanted to know. And it wasn't until the Batman movie came out, which was after first season, we got to see a slide uninterrupted. They hit the instant costume change lever on the way down. What a clever answer to a thorny problem, right? Wouldn't that be a handy thing to have? What was the reality, though, for Adam West and Burt Ward? Adam told me when they slid down the poles, they landed in a 7-foot concrete pit on mattresses. Then they climbed a ladder to get out. And Burt chimed in, yeah, but in the Batcave, which was on a different soundstage, they jumped off the scaffolding onto the bat poles and they dropped 33 feet. Can you imagine doing that? No wires, no rigging, no safety nets. They just did it because the director said action. Boy, today they would probably use the stunt doubles and then use CGI to replace their faces, or they would use the stunt doubles period and not ever let them go. But maybe they would let them go if they had the rigging and that kind of thing. So this is one of the opportunities too, to stand right in front of the poles for photos. So don't hesitate to do so. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the room in just a second. Thankfully, Alfred was repainting, so none of the signage was up, which would have been a dead giveaway, right? How did Alfred keep him from reaching the Batcave? Do you remember? Did you notice this little leather strap in this door over here? Alfred pulled this down, revealing the emergency Batpole elevator buttons. He hit the up button, squished the Joker against the ceiling, sent him up and down a few more times until the Joker was ready to give up. Get me off this crazy dumb waiter! Now the wall behind you folks over here, this was not on the set. That's where the camera crew was located. But this gave me the excuse to put those 4 pieces of music out. Digital copies of the original handwritten music Nelson Riddle did when he rewrote the Batman theme. Now, Neil Hefti wrote the Batman song, but he wasn't available to score the show. So Nelson Riddle did the first 2 seasons, and then Billy May did the 3rd season of the show. He's also the guy that wrote the Batgirl theme. There are a lot of strange tie-ins with the Batman TV show in Indiana. Many people are not familiar, but what are some of those connections, you might wonder? The producer was William Dozier, the executive producer. He lived in Indianapolis as a real estate broker in the 1930s. Then you had his son, Robert Dozier, who wrote the first 2 Joker episodes. He was born here in Indiana. Then you get to the Batmobile. Most people by now know that the Batmobile was a one-of-a-kind concept car called the Futura, 1955 Lincoln Futura. The guy that scalloped the fins was Bob Metz from Shelbyville, Indiana. Then George Barris made a mold and cast 3 fiberglass copies. The number 3 car was toured by Steve Tansey in Tipton, Indiana. The number 4 car was restored by Steve Donato out of Gary, Indiana, for the Chicago Antique Auto Museum. And you've got the mysterious number 5 car. It was a fan-built Batmobile built by 2 guys in Evansville, Indiana. And George Barris loved to tell the tale that he confiscated this Batmobile using federal marshals. It's not true. No, he hired the guy instantly to be his East Coast and Canada representative. Then there's some goofy guy in Logansport that's built 32 Batmobiles. I wonder who that might be.
Oh.
Any guesses? I've been a fan since I was younger than the 2 of you. I was only 2 years old when I saw Batman for the first time, and it made an indelible impression. I still remember my first episode. Robin was about to be stamped into a comic book by the Joker, and that cemented my fandom immediately. I didn't get to see very many episodes in the first, when it was actually on the air, But in reruns in the 1970s, I got to see all of the episodes many times over. And I was 11 years old when my dad took me to Chicago to the Antique Auto Museum, where I got to see that Batmobile that was restored by Steve Donato. It was the dragster Batmobile I later found out. This was a car that was on drag strips all across the country, with Wild Bill Shrewsbury driving the car at 117 miles an hour, popping the bat chutes after doing the flamethrower a few times. And this car cemented the dream that not only was I going to own a Batmobile someday, I was going to build it. So people ask all the time, your dad must have been in the automotive industry. I said, no, school principal. They said, well, you must have had automotive aspirations. I said, no, filmmaker. I'd made 2 Batman fan films in high school, gearing up to do my 3rd in college. I thought, oh, we've built sets, we've built props, we've sewn costumes. How hard can it be to build a car? So far in over our heads. We were too naive to know that we couldn't do it, so we did. We had enough willpower to be able to get past all of the obstacles that we faced. We made 99 mistakes for every single part of the car. We learned how not to build a Batmobile as we were building it. So when I started building them professionally 23 years ago, we'd already made all those rookie mistakes. So we were way past that part of the curve. And that's why we attracted the attention of DC Comics, who sent a spy to my shop pretending to be a customer, and he liked what he saw. I later found out, like 2 years later, what the story was. The spy said that if they were going to license anybody, that this was the guy. Their words, not mine. He said they liked the quality level, they liked the accuracy level, and they said I'd be a good ambassador for Batman. So I've lived every day to try to live up to that reputation. And obviously I love Batman. So who would have ever thought little old Mark and little old Logansport and little old Indiana really is the only guy on the planet that's licensed to build the 66 Batmobile? But it's true. So we can head on down the hallway to get to, there were so many stars that wanted to be on it that they ended up not being able to make them all villains. So that's when they created the Bat Climb. And then the Bat Climb, they had cameos. This is a replica of the Bat Climb that was done for the 2003 reunion movie, Return to the Batcave, with Betty White being the celebrity in the window with younger actors playing Adam and Bert as they did flashbacks. And this is a blast because as they pull away at the end of this shot, they show you how they did it. So they weren't really climbing the wall at all. Instead, as the camera pulls back, you see that the set was turned sideways, the background was sideways, and they used fishing lines to hold their capes up. The celebrity was laying down on their back, and then they would sit up, and that's how they made this work. So this is our replica of the Bat Climb. So if you would care to come up here on the ladder, you can step right here in front of the window and hold the rope on your left side and squat down just a little bit with your right toe close to the window. Remove the ladder out of the way. Do you have a phone?
Yes. What? You're not Batman.
No, I'm the what's up dude. Tribute to my father. Without his can-do attitude, I certainly would not have built my first Batmobile when I was 17, and I certainly would not have made a Batman museum or any of my businesses. And he started off as a farmer in Southern Illinois, and he brought a lot of that with him when he moved to Logansport. He was a school principal at the state hospital, and then he was a kind landlord, did a lot of his own minor repairs. He collected ducks. He was a Bobby Knight IU fan. He was a Lone Ranger fan. And he would have loved to have met you folks. Unfortunately, he didn't get to see the museum completed, but he was very instrumental in everything I was doing. We met each other daily for meetings and for family fun, and he loved everything that we were doing. He would have loved to have met you. So, over here we have a poster from Zelda the Great. She was one of the lesser known villains in the first season, played by Ann Baxter. Then in here,
We have a couple of screen used items. We have a penguin jacket worn by Burgess Meredith in the 3rd season of the show from the episode The Sport of Penguins. We have Frank Gorshin's outfit that was screen used in the 2003 reunion movie in Return to the Batcave. Julie Newmar signed our Catwoman belt. Yvonne Craig, Batgirl, signed our Batgirl walkie-talkies. The rest are replica props to be sure, but our batarangs and our bat radio were molded right off the screen used props. One of my fans and my bat buddies is also a bookworm fan, so he made replicas of some of the books that were used in that bookworm episode. And if you remember, Bookworm was about ready to clobber Lydia Limpet with a blue book, and he looks up at the title and it says, "The secret of success is self-control." And he puts it on a book stand and he reads a thick book like that in about 60 seconds. So it was really funny. But our latest acquisition is this Lee Merriweather bust up here. Lee Merriweather is not in very good health anymore. Her daughter gave me a call and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this bust that Greg Mario made?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I would be floored. It would be absolutely wonderful." And she said the discussion was with her mother, do you want me to sell this? And she said no, that she wanted it to go into a museum where people could actually see it instead of disappearing in an attic and maybe never being seen again. So what a beautiful job Greg Mario did, and what a great thing for Lee Merriweather and her daughter Leslie to have done. Of course, who can forget the shark repellent bat spray, right? You never know when there might be a shark around. Oh my goodness, look,
Oh, sorry.
there's a shark. And over here we have a little taste of the memorabilia that you'll see downstairs with a Joker section, a Penguin section, and that penguin porcelain statue is apparently a lot more valuable than I thought it was.
I've never seen something.
It's from a set of the villain statues, and I bought that at a Comic-Con for maybe about 40 or 50 bucks. Didn't think too much about it, and I said, well, maybe someday I'll go and get the rest of the set. And about 3 or 4 years later, I'll go back to buy the rest of it. They're about $400 a piece.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. And Batman the Animated Series is the gateway for our younger Bat fans to get into the TV show as well as the movies. And Kevin Conroy was just spectacular doing the voice of Batman. And of course, Mark Hamill doing the voice of the Joker. He's done so many more Joker movies
And games.
than he ever did as Luke Skywalker. That it's really quite phenomenal. And one of the most underrated of those movies, Mask of Phantasm. Brilliant movie, so well written. What they explored was what happened if Bruce Wayne found somebody, found a woman and fell in love with her, and he was actually happy. Would he have gone on being Batman? And what a brilliant, brilliant concept it was. And of course, spoilers, she turned out to be the villain. But the Batmobile was a lot of fun in that show as well, and fans of Batman the Animated Series, they look backward to the TV show and they look forward through all of the movies. So it's really been a neat gateway. So over here we have our Rogues Gallery of Dastardly Villains. 3 different actors played Mr. Freeze on the show. George Sanders was inside the helmet. They wisely got rid of the helmet when they went to Otto Preminger, the bald-headed director that ended up playing Freeze. They created the jet collar with the Freeze nozzles on it, which are just pop rivets, by the way. And then Eli Wallach played him in the tail end of 2nd season. He was the Western star. So when we have our people stand next to Mr. Freeze for photos, I make sure to mention it's 50 degrees below zero, so if you shiver a little bit, it makes it a lot more fun.
Where'd you get that poster? Because that's from the movie.
I had a buddy of mine design that, and then we printed it. Catwoman was played by 3 different actresses, of course. Julie Newmar originated the role. She really is that tall, 5'11", and then they put her in the boots with the kitty heels. She is about that size. She has better hips than that, The mannequin's just a little bit thin on the hip region. But she's 92 years old, still going strong, still taking care of her Down syndrome son, John. And what a testament to her character that is, that at 92 she's still caring for him. Then she was off with back surgery at the time of the Batman movie. And that's why Lee Merriweather came in to take over the role. And then Julie came back for second season. And then she was off shooting McKenna's Gold with John Wayne at the time of third season. And that's when they brought in the singer Eartha Kitt, who did Santa Baby, to do the role of Catwoman. And I thought it was really a neat thing that all three of them brought something different to the role. Mm-hmm. You had the sultry and mischievous Julie Newmar's version of Just Like a Cat. You had the aristocrat version with Lee Merriweather, and then Eartha Kitt was the alley cat who rolled her R's so perfectly. All three were just terrific. In the background, you notice there are lots of Easter eggs. Abby, the manager here, my daughter, she constantly is working on signage and coming up with different ideas on how to fill the shelves and make that happen. Burgess Meredith was the Penguin, and Burgess had quit smoking 10 years before the show. So he's coughing and gagging, and he needed something to cover up those sounds. So that's why he developed the sound. And the producers and directors liked it so much it became part of his character from that point on. If they couldn't think of any dialogue for him to say, they would say, and Penguin says, whack here. So pretty wild stuff. You notice KG Bird from his first episode. That was his front at the Umbrella Factory. Then we have Frank Gorshin, the impressionist who played the Riddler, of course. Riddle me this. What is it that no man wants to have, but no man wants to lose? A lawsuit? Frank was so good in the role that he was the only one out of the entire cast of Batman that was nominated for an Emmy. Wow. And it went a little bit to his head. He asked for double, some accounts even said triple for second season. And that's why Bill Dozier, the producer, turned him down flat, rewrote the first pair of episodes that were supposed to be Riddler, changed them to the Puzzler with Maurice Evans, and then they brought in John Astin to play the Riddler. John Astin was Gomez in the Addams Family, and he's a great actor, but he brought none of that manic physicality. He didn't have the laugh, and he just wasn't psychotic enough playing the part that many people were disappointed. And they brought Frank back for the third season, and no, I don't know the results of the salary dispute, but they worked it out. Behind Frank, over here, behind the Riddler, is the bomb from the Batman movie. These are replicas, of course. Batman's running around the dock, and he couldn't take it this way because of the brass band. He couldn't take it this way because of the gal with the baby in the carriage. Couldn't take it that way because of the little duckies out in the water. And over here, and he stops and he says, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. One of cinema's top 100 lines of dialogue, and well-deserved Adam West.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Over here we have the total dehydrator replica. This was so well made that Burt Ward kept telling the guy that built it that it was the actual prop from the show. He had to tell Burt 3 times, no Burt, I made it. I built it. I'm the guy that made it. Oh, it's a replica. And of course we have Cesar Romero as the Joker, and most people by now know about the mustache, the famous mustache. He refused to shave it, so they covered it over with pancake makeup, and our statue makers even made that part of the statue perfectly. These are made by Great Mario, these four here across the middle of Joker, Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman, and his team in New York, and they did a spectacular job. And a few other heads or placeholders until we can ask Greg and his team to complete them for us. Mad Hatter, of course, played by David Wayne on the show. We had the super instant mesmerizer on his top hat. Eventually we will have motion sensors that will make the pop top pop up, and you'll see the instant mesmerizer. He sprayed Batman's cowl with a radioactive mist, turning it a super bright pink. Thankfully, Batman had anti-radioactive bat pellets for just such an emergency. Cliff Robertson was Shane, and for the younger people that are watching the video, he was Tobey Maguire's Uncle Ben in the first Spider-Man movie. And of course, he won an Oscar for the movie Charlie, and he was a great character actor. It was in a lot of different shows. One of my favorite bits of him in the first pair of episodes of Batman, where Comeback Shane is where he returns to his Old West hideout, and then the Batmobile shows up, and one of his henchmen says, Boss, how did you know? I knew he'd think I'd think about coming back here. Just handled brilliantly. This building was built in 1896. It was a leather shop originally. It took 3 months just to restore the tin ceiling. This is the original tin ceiling in here. It was a tremendous amount of work. And then up above the shelves, you see the two animated portions of the opening titles of the TV show. Those were made by me with about 100 layers, and each one in Photoshop, from about 4 or 5 different screen grabs to combine them, because it's cell animation and the 3 layers move at different rates. So you've got the colored characters that are moving forward in the first layer, the purple characters are moving, and then the shadows are moving. So in order to make it work, it was a lot of effort. And then my buddy Scott Sebring, a Batman fan extraordinaire from LA, he's the one that put together the United Underworld banner over there. So please do take pictures of yourselves back behind the ropes here. If you would like for me to do that as a group shot, I'd be happy to do that as well.
All right, as you can see, there is collections of memorabilia on the walls. Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, Joker, Mad Hatter. And this is all from 1966 Batman, and this is a large private collection of props and toys and memorabilia.
who is your favorite Bat villain from the TV show? So you've got the 4 main villains in the corners. You've got the 7 second-tier villains in the middle, and then the perimeter of the 3rd-tier villains, more like the one-offs. So many stars wanted to be on the show. This was a who's who of Hollywood at the time. So Liberace and Shelley Winters, you had Carolyn Jones, you had Milton Berle, Art Carney, Vincent Price, Joan Collins, Ethel Merman, Zsa Zsa Gabor, one of the Gabor sisters. It was just incredible. And the more you look, the more you'll wonder, are there any that you don't recognize that are up there? So a lot of people ask me about the gentleman below the Joker, and that's Roger C. Carmel, who was Harry Mudd on Star Trek. And that...
in the episode where he had like a pink cowl.
So that was Mad Hatter as the villain with the pink cowl. Right. A lot of people ask me about the guy with the plastic mask. That's False Face, and he was played by Malachi Throne. So Malachi said, "Oh, this is the greatest coup of my career. I'm on the Batman TV show." But they put him in the plastic mask, and he went, "Oh no!" And then worse yet, they made a question mark at the beginning in the opening credits of the show, so people were guessing who it was. And they brought up maybe it was Frank Sinatra, maybe they gave him this role instead. But Malachi Throne was the actor. He was best known probably for, in Star Trek in Menagerie, he was the one that put Spock on trial. So if that gives you...
I'm wondering if that predated Clayface then.
Right, and that's
inspired
a good guess. That this would be a low-budget version of Clayface. As we see in the opening credits, they intended to include Clayface and even Doctor Strange.
Ah.
So isn't that fascinating?
Who's the character between Art Carney and Burgess Meredith?
That's Killer Moth.
What?
Killer Moth
It is?
was never on the show, but he was in the 7-minute Batgirl presentation as the villain. So yes,
Does he wear the? He's in one of the radio.
just that with the antennae and green outfits. Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot more than that. But yeah, and then Vincent Price as Egghead was the smartest of all of Batman's villains. He had deduced that Batman was probably Bruce Wayne. They're sitting in the brain transferometer gizmo, and he looks to Bruce and he says, "Even if I'm wrong about your being Batman, Mr. Wayne, your brain will be utterly destroyed." Like, oh my gosh, as a kid, I was trying to work it out. I know Batman's going to get out of this, but man, his brain, what are we going to do about his brain? It was so great. And then one that's really grown on me over the years was Victor Buono as King Tut. He just chewed up the scenery so beautifully. He got the nature of the show working on those 2 levels. For action adventure for kids and then high camp for the adults. And it's not that I love you any less, Batman, simply that I love me more. He was brilliant in that.
Did you ever appear in the comics?
Yes,
He did.
eventually.
There's Mike Allred.
Right, in the 66 version of the comics, yes. And in the animated series, some of the Batman villains that were originals from the TV show made it into a couple of the episodes, including the Music Man, where most of them were seen. So, what fun. So my wife did the artwork that you see inside of the elevator here, along with my daughter. The 2 of them worked together on it. The Penguin's head, there was the Grand Order of Occidental Nighthawks. I wonder if there's any meaning to that name. Grand Order of Occidental. Maybe it's Goon. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Even our bathrooms are themed. People get a kick out of seeing mirrors in particular.
Batgirl in here. And we are inside the Bat Room. We have wall arts. Now, What I found super funny is we have Batman and Robin with oxygen masks. So if you're in here and you gotta go, at least Batman and Robin are prepared for what smells they might face.
The Batmobile customer owns art galleries in France, in New York, and Las Vegas, and he commissioned Alex Ross, the famous comic book artist, along with Julie for these prints, limited to only 66 copies. This is number 27, and they donated it to the museum. We do puzzles as family time, Jill, Abby, and I, from time to time. And Abby recommended, instead of tearing them apart, let's go ahead and frame them and put them out. People have never seen these completed before. So these are Thomas Kincaid puzzles here and here. This was the most difficult one because of how dark the colors are in it. And the Thomas Kincaid's, the edges are not well defined, more of an impressionistic type look. So it was quite the challenge, to say the least. Is everybody okay going downstairs, or do we need to take the elevator?
No, we could do that.
Stairs are okay? All right. Simplicity pattern that came out in 1966, and somebody took that pattern and made these two costumes recently. This is a rare opportunity to see one of her Batmobiles in.
It's a replica of the Futura in it. Oh, that's the.
Batmobile. So this Batmobile is about 40% completed.
I mean, you use the specs from the Futura. Or you just go straight Batmobile.
Both.
Oh, both.
So as you can see, the car body is mounted, the doors, hood, and trunk are hinged and swinging. And this gives you an idea of how much work is involved. It's over 2,500 hours of labor goes into each Batmobile that we build.
3 years in it.
So yeah, about 3 years is the average time. The photos on the wall are of our cars that we built right here in Logansport. That's my crew there in the bottom picture. The 5 Batmobile picture was taken by Rich Voorhees, the international award-winning photographer. How many days do you think I had all 5 Batmobiles? 3. How many days did it rain of those 3 days? 2.5. So I have 3 hours in between church services to get the cars detailed, get them into position, get Rich up on the roof, and then take the pictures and get him back down off the roof, get the cars back inside. And as you can see, we were fighting the shadows by that point of the day. My most stolen photograph is the Batmobile against the black backdrop. That's not the #1 car, that's not Adam West. That's actually my 4th Batmobile, and that's Scott Sebring, the Batman cosplayer out of LA, sitting in that car, and that's at the Barrett Jackson photo tent. So I took the picture as a snapshot, and it has become one of the most famous pictures I've ever taken. Stolen and used on t-shirts and hats and mugs and posters.
Can I ask a goofy
Floor
question?
mats. Sure.
Has anybody ever approached you to do an electric version of the Batmobile?
Yes, I have been approached about one customer has asked me about doing an electric vehicle. I said, I will build the rolling chassis and give it to you, and then you can take it to a kit supplier, and they can do the installation and give it back to me as a drivable car, and then I'll build the Batmobile around what they do. Well, he couldn't find anybody to do that. So I'm like, if they're not willing to do it and that's what they do, I don't want to touch it.
Can't shoot flames out of an electric vehicle.
Right. And it's a fiberglass vehicle, so I'm thinking the last thing you want is a bunch of batteries that may catch fire someday. It's all going to go bye-bye. Yeah. Yeah, and it would take up the entire floor pan of the car, which means the seats would be raised higher and you'd be looking out over the windshield like this.
Do they have like the thing where it's like in the show there's like a thing that comes up? I think it's like an antenna or like a satellite little thing. Does your car do all
Our
that?
cars, yeah, the bat beam antenna that
Oh, it does
raises
all
and
that?
lowers. Oh yeah. Yes. So the bat beam antenna raises and lowers, headlights, of course, turn signals, park lamps, all function.
And there's actually a trunk in there.
Right.
It's real small though, isn't it?
We do a hood and trunk, yeah. So this is our 10th Batmobile here that you see with the side. And in our paint jobs, we want the paint job to be so well done that you can read a street sign from a block away. And that's our...
Was the original Batmobile wasn't glossy, was it?
Not terribly, but...
It looks better glossy.
It had, supposedly had 40 coats of black lacquer on it. Supposedly. I don't think he had time to do 40 coats, but that's another story. 1974 was the best Christmas ever with the Mego Batcave when it was released. This was so tremendous for us as Bat fans. There hadn't been anything like this that had come out in quite a while. Remember that this is 74, not 66, so the Batman hysteria had pretty much started to die off by this time.
That was Mego,
But
wasn't it?
Mego came out right with the Batmobile, the Batcycle, and the Batcopter, and the 4 villains of Joker, Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman. And it was just incredible. So in 2014, Figures Toy Company re-released it, only they made it better. They added the backdrops that were more accurate to the show, and then they brought out so many more villains. Bookworm and Mad Hatter, Shane, Egghead. So it was just incredible. And then variations.
Let's miss a quick. Wow.
Right? With Barbara Gordon as the librarian, you had Chief O'Hara as the beach bum from Surf's Up, Joker's Under.
Yeah, I know there's a huge following for the Superpowers collection. There's groups on Facebook that are they're talking about it everywhere.
That's awesome. We have a Michael Keaton section. We have a Val Kilmer section from time to time. We have The Batman right now, just because the Batman 2 went into production. Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, even George Clooney. This represents about half of the collection. The other half still in the archives. So we rotate through the displays from time to time. Miss Abby does a great job of making that happen. Some items are on loan to the Batman Museum, like that display case over there with Kevin Conroy having signed one of the Batmobiles, so that's cool. And the lunch boxes are also on loan to the museum over there. So of course there were several stars on the Batman show, and 2 of the biggest were Batman and Robin themselves, Adam West and Burt Ward. Well, I met Burt Ward for the first time when I was 7 years old in 1972. He came to Logansport and he did a bicycle safety awareness tour at the area schools as Burt Ward, and then he was dressed as Robin at the Chrysler dealership. So I met him many times over the years. He gave me some advice when I became licensed by Warner Brothers and DC Comics. And he was looking at the end of our Batmobile, the first one that we shipped off to Australia. And he said, well, that never worked on our car. That was always broken on our car. And that was just a special effect. And you got it to work for real. So that was really cool. And then Adam I met for the first time at a little itty bitty convention up in Detroit. And it was a little Comic Con. There were a couple of guys there that were peddling a black and white comic book and about turtles and that were ninjas.
Kevin Eastman and Peter
What in the world? Good luck. I hope that works for you. And yes, it was Eastman and Laird. And boy, was I glad to be wrong about what I thought was going to happen with those characters. I loved the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It was just spectacular.
And then Batman had a movie with him, a cartoon.
Right. So I got to meet Adam West there and then met him many times over the years. Got to work with him twice. He was looking at the engine of my 10th Batmobile. It was a Ford 460 bored out to a 514 stroker. Had 702 horsepower. So Adam leaned in and he said, how many horsepower was that again? I said 702, Adam. He said, that's great. The car that I had was a piece of junk. And he meant it too, because the Futura was just an experimental car. It was never meant to be driven on a daily basis, and it was already 11 years old at the time of the TV show. So it looked absolutely gorgeous as the Batmobile. But the steering wheel, the experimental steering wheel, snapped off into the hands of the stunt driver, Huey Kearns, at the tail end of the second season. That's why they replaced it with a full Edsel, a 58 Edsel steering wheel. I asked George Barris, I said, what'd you do with the steering wheel? You've got that in a box in the attic, right? And he said, no, I stupidly threw it away. I said, George, that's probably worth $1 million. He said, I know. So I met and interviewed George Barris while he was sitting in the Screen News #1 car. The #1, the Futura converted Batmobile, was in all 120 episodes. The #1, though, had 2 giant dents in it, one in front of the door and one behind the door on the passenger side. May have been like light stands having fallen on it. They were kind of diamond-shaped dents, so it was pretty substantial. It didn't look like it was an impact as such, like a car wreck, but it's hard to say for sure. So the #1 was out for repairs for one scene in one episode. Which one was it? The contaminated cowl, the one with the pink cowl upstairs. Was that episode. The very next one after Batman's cowl is sprayed, they're in the Batcave. And the Batmobile in the background is heavily obscured by Batcave equipment. Robin's standing in front of the door so you can't see inside the car very much. And a friend of mine has eagle eyes. He was looking at the side of the arch and he kept going, what in the world? The side marker lights are huge. They're not small like they're supposed to be. And he said, Mark, you need to check this out. So I took a look also on VHS, really high res, right? So VHS, we're going frame by frame by frame. And sure enough, the 2 side marker lights were the size of truck lights.
Oh, wow.
Right? About that big. And they're supposed to be about 2 inches. And instead, they were about 4. And then in addition to that, there were other issues. There was no chrome trim on the windshields. There was no white outline on the door bats. And finally on Blu-ray, it confirmed everything that we thought, that it was indeed the #4 Batmobile that was used for one scene for one episode. Hi folks, welcome to the Batman Museum. How's it going today? Great, welcome. So the exterior of the Batcave was shot at Bronson Cavern. But cavern's kind of a misnomer because it's just a tunnel. And it was mined out, so it's not really a cave at all. But the tunnel was mined out, and they used the stone to build highways out in Los Angeles. And the opening is about 10 feet wide. And that sounds like it'd be plenty of room for a 7-foot wide car, except they put 2 doors on it that folded inside, which narrowed the opening to only 8 feet wide. So at that point, Hubie Kearns is driving at 25 miles an hour, which must have seemed like 100 to him, but on film it looked absolutely dreadfully slow, like they were crawling out of the Batcave. That's why they sped up the film on the TV show to make the car look like it was rocketing out of the Batcave. And on the first day of shooting, the hairpin turn coming off of the barricade, the passenger door flew open. Burt Ward was inside the Batmobile. There were no seat belts inside the Futura. And he just about flew out of the car, caught himself with his little finger and dislocated it. So that was Burt's very first shot on the very first day of shooting the pilot of the Batman TV show. So as you step on inside of here, this is a replica of the Batcave. Stage 16 at Culver Studios housed the Batcave on one side, and I was talking with Adam West and said, all right guys, I need you to put your thinking caps on. I said, if you were to turn the cameras 180 degrees away from the Batcave, what set would you see? And Adam said, you're a filmmaker, aren't you? And I said, yes sir, I sure am. And he said that was Commissioner Gordon's office. So they could easily go from the Batcave to Commissioner Gordon's office. So here we see costumes of Batman and Robin. I started off with just Halloween costumes, and then I've been adding to them over the years to make it better. So Batman's cowl, his cape tights, the belt, shorts, and boots are pretty accurate to what Adam West wore. The cowl had a fiberglass shell, super hard, and would not breathe at all. So how was that for dedication to the role? And Burt Ward's costume did not hide very much of his face, so when he was injured or his arms were injured, he would have to hide using his cape over top his arm, like in the Marcia Queen of Diamonds episode when he was sword fighting with the henchman. He was cut pretty badly. Over here is a replica of the Burroughs 205 unit. There were 3 of them in the Batcave. And these were real working computers in 1955 at the cost of $250,000. You know how much that is in today's money? You multiply it out, it's almost $3 million. And they had 3 of them in the Batcave. Why? Because by 1965, they were surplus. Nothing's changed in the computer world, has it? This is my first Batmobile. This is the one I built when I was 17 years old. So 5 crazy 17-year-olds. We had no automotive experience. We had no automotive tools. We didn't even own an air compressor, if that tells you how naive we were. We were too naive to know that we couldn't do it, so then we did. So we made every mistake in the world. We learned 99 ways how not to build a Batmobile. People ask all the time, well, what materials did you use? Did you have any plans or blueprints? There are no plans or blueprints. That's one of the problems, and we'll talk about that when we get into the Futura room. So we had 4 photographs of the number 4 Batmobile in a dimly lit museum in Chicago, and I had a little corky Batmobile, the little metal one, and my memory, and that was it. So the windshields are made out of 1/8-inch Lexan. I took poster board and created the shapes, laid them out flat on Lexan, cut it with a jigsaw. Then as a 17-year-old, I went into a machine shop and asked them to put 2 90-degree bends in it. The machine shop people were going, oh no, we can't do that, it's going to shatter. And I said, no, it's Lexan, it's not acrylic, it'll be fine. And if it does, it's on me, not on you guys. They put the 2 90-degree bends in it and everything was fine. I bent it into shape, bracketed it down to the plywood top. So some areas of this are 3 inches thick and the other areas are paper thin, where you see some of the cracks and things like that. The temptation is there to make repairs to the car, but my friends, my colleagues, they say, don't you dare leave all the patina. If it looks just like one of your normal show cars, no one will believe it was your first one. So I intend to leave it as it is. Behind you is a picture of the transition from Futura to Batmobile. It started as a clay model, a full-size clay model in Detroit. 5,000 pounds of clay went into it. Then it was shipped off to Italy, where the artisans at Ghia hand-formed the steel over top of wooden forms. It toured for 2 years as the Futura. Then it was painted red in 1958 for the movie It Started With a Kiss, when it was released in '59. Debbie Reynolds and Glenn Ford, famous for what besides being actors themselves? Debbie Reynolds is the mother of a certain princess, Princess Leia.
She was Singing in the Rain.
Right, Singing in the Rain, very good. Glenn Ford, he was the famous adopted father of which superhero? Superman, in the Christopher Reeve Superman movie in 1978. So George Bear's thing got the fateful call in September of '65. We need a Batmobile and we need it in just a few weeks. Is there anything you can do to help us? I've got this Futura sitting out back. It'll be perfect. It's already futuristic. It has giant bat fins on it. So he converted it into the Batmobile in black primer with white airbrush striping to begin with. Then it was painted for real with the gloss black paint job. So over here we have a Jazz Inc. Batmobile from the Netherlands. This is probably the most accurate Batmobile model you'll ever see. I was a last-minute consultant on it. I was reluctant to, because I didn't want to be that guy. My friends kept saying, Mark, he wants to know, he wants it to be accurate. He wants to know if there are any imperfections in his digital model. So I said, okay, well, let me email him and see if it's not too late and if he really wants the information. And Yost, the guy, said yes. So I ended up letting him know there were 45 things wrong with this digital model. And he said, what?
It was out of the Netherlands.
It was, yeah, it was digitally scanned right off the #1 car. So he said, how can there possibly be that many imperfections? I said, you know what, the digital scan was done in 2006 by Hot Wheels. The problem is, so many items have been lost, stolen, or broken since the TV show was on 66 through 68 that they were replaced with poor facsimiles. So you have to look at the show to be able to really know what the car looked like back then, or high-res photos. And I gave him high-res screen caps from the show and also high-res photos that I took of the parts that were still intact. And that made all the difference in the world. He fixed 43 of the 45. I was a very happy boy.
What's the significance of the Route 66 sign being in
Oh,
here?
yeah, Route
Because we
66
filmed,
is-
a lot of my films are on there.
That's nice. So it was just 1966 for the TV show, and then the era was appropriate for
Gotcha.
the Batmobile and for the TV show. And you know, automobiles were so prevalent in the 50s and 60s. It was part of American culture, and it seems like it's really odd today that a lot of kids don't even want to own an automobile. It's almost like the automobile and the driving experience is in the way of the rest of their lives. And you know, for us, it was a rite of passage. It was freedom. It represented so much more than just being a car. But when you're stuck on your phone like this all day long, and yeah, I get it on the one hand, but on the other hand, no.
Yes.
Speaking of cars that were older, where were the gas filler necks located on cars prior to 1979? You remember? Where?
Or behind
For the most part, yeah, right. Some were behind the taillights and some were hidden in different ways, but you're right, behind the license plate, right? So the license plate was located in the middle of the rear bumper of the car. So guess where it was on the picture? Right here. That's a rag sticking
Oh,
out
wow.
of the gas filler. And those dribbles right there, those are gasoline dribbles. They ran a flame right past that gas filler neck for one shot that they duplicated. It became a stock shot that was used throughout all of first season.
That's the question. I have two questions.
Okay?
First, Dirk, based on current gas prices, how much does it cost to fill up the Batmobile?
Oh, I think that one has about an 18-gallon tank, so yeah, you can do the math from there. But
So also, did you put radios in your Batmobile?
oh yeah. George Barris saw the pilot. He was absolutely furious with the team of the filmmakers. They lied to him. They said they made a replica of the rear end of the car. They did not. There was no time whatsoever to do that. So George Barris got the car back after first season. He extended the rocket exhaust tube, put a second tube inside, and then moved the gas tank under the rear windshields, cut out a gas door here, and then put a butane tank in the trunk. And that way they could do the flamethrower anytime they wanted to. Maybe we should turn this off for a view here for sound. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And then we'll turn off and 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Were there any features for the Batmobile for inclement weather, like when it started to rain? I always wondered that.
No.
Oh, no.
No. So the Batman is holding on to the emergency bat turn lever in this photo. Of course, that's what was supposed to release and billow the parachutes out the back of the car. It wasn't, it didn't do anything. It was just a prop, of course. The real parachute pole were those two silver rings right below the fire extinguisher. And if you look closely, what does it say on that tag? Can you read it?
Don't pull.
Do not pull. Can you imagine getting ready to shoot a shot? Roll sound, roll camera, all right, mark it, they do the clapper board, and they're ready to call action, and somebody dumps the parachutes on the ground. If you've never packed a parachute before, it's really difficult. There's a spring inside the parachute pack to make it jettison out, and then you have to pack it out, and it has to fit inside the 4 flaps, which happen to have elastic straps on them. So you have to get it inside, push the spring, get the parachute in, and then start working on bringing those 4 flaps together to go ahead and attach it here for the parachute pull ring. It would have been a big deal, taking about 45 minutes per parachute to pack. And one of the other attributes of the car that people ask me about is the cable cutter blade. And one of the most famous pictures is the one that we looked at over there of Adam and Bert walking around the front of the car. And if you ever had the toy Batmobile, the Corgi, you pressed the Batbeam button and the blade snapped out of the front of it. So I, as a kid, made up adventure after adventure of how this must have been used on the TV show. And then as an adult, I watched all 120 episodes. Oh, where's Cable Cutter? When is it going to show up? It never did. And there's a reason for that. I interviewed the guy that made this for George Barris. And he said, yes, when it was retracted, the tip stuck out of the car and it was cutting people's shins. So just a few episodes into the first season, they had to remove it. So how's that for some weird trivia?
Oh no.
Over here is a Bat Shield replica. This was made by a buddy of mine named Alex. He's out in Nashville. And it's signed by Burt Ward, 22 of 100. And this is exactly the size that it was on the show. This is made out of Lexan though, unlike the acrylic one. You remember the Archer episode? They're on the boat, they're getting ready for the big fight for the finale, and the Archer's men pull back arrows and they fire them. Well, the arrows were blunted, of course, but it was a real bow. And they shot them and they shattered the Bat Shield. Thankfully, it really was the stunt doubles this time, which was rare. And that's when they replaced it. They put the word shield just on this side of it instead of being split like this. By the way, the Bat Shield folds up and fits into any utility belt just perfectly, including Robin's. If you've seen the Joker, Joker's which one is that? The Maharaja episode. And Robin is holding the Bat Shield. He folds it up, puts his little itty bitty yellow cape up, and then slides it down to the floor. And you hear it hit the floor. Oh my God. So over here we have the bottom of the bat poles that you saw up in the study. And this is one of the photo opportunities, of course. So people can stand on the black pads, and then we take pictures of them standing here. And we asked them, how did Batman and Robin get back up to the study? Well, of course, the compressed steam bat pole lift, naturally. People often ask about those as well. The walls we made out of chicken wire over top of a wooden framework, covered it with masking tape, and then we had a foam insulation company. So imagine this phone call if you're the foam insulation company. Hi, I want you guys to come in, I want you to shoot the foam, and then I want you to leave. Don't trim it back to the studs. Yeah, exactly. Don't trim it back to the studs, don't sand it, don't do anything like, what in the world are you doing? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. But then I told them, and they came out in an hour and a half. I had my Batcave walls.
Oh,
they
wow.
did a spectacular job of making that happen. The Batmobile model you see over here was from my third Batman fan film I did in college. And I did kind of a hybrid between the TV show and the comics. So Batman had multiple Batmobiles, right? So the bad guys were in a car chase with them. They're throwing grenades at Batman and Robin in the Batmobile. And so Batman hides with the smoke screen, puts out the remote control Batmobile, full scale, and it's driving along, and the bad guys think that it's really Batman and Robin because they're robots inside. Throw the grenade inside, it blows up. So this was the model used with one rear view shot, and this is what's left of the model after we have set off an explosive inside. It was a massive explosion, and it's one of the clips that plays on that video that you were looking at earlier. So in here, Alfred's elevator was right back in here, about this far in. I can't do the red door though for fire safety regulations, of course. So we'll step on in here.
Sorry.
This is the 1955 Lincoln Futura from Mini Champs. And this is the production model. This is their limited edition, 100 issues. The color, though, was not really either one of these. The color was more like what you see on the Revell model kit from 1955. And it was a silver blue, according to the guy that designed the interior of the car, Stanley Waldson. I interviewed him as well. And I ground up thousands of fish scales to put into the clear coat. They were working on a pearlescent at the time. Come on in, folks, you're fine. So no two people would ever agree on what the color of the Futura was. So was it silver? Was it blue? Was it green? Was it gold? Or was it white? What color was it? Because no two people see color exactly the same way. And then the photography of the day, it could not capture any of the fish scales in the pearlescent. So it only picked up the white base coat. It grayed out, it looked awful. So that's why they painted it red for the movie that started with the kids. This is a documentary that Ford put out in regards to set cars, starting with a clay model, full scale, and then becoming the actual car. There's no interior, there's no engine, and they're using vinyl to paint the car. So this is a replica of the Futura. This is from which my molds came. This guy was a huge fan, Marty Martino, of concept cars and makes replicas of them. He hoped beyond hope that someday somebody was going to ask him for a Futura. He made this, popped a mold, and left this out in the woods for 12 years, hence the nickname Futura in the Woods. And after 12 years, it was falling apart. Giant fissures all over the place. The rear end was held on only by a rope. So he had to make a decision, destroy it or sell it. So he sold it to me on eBay for $2,125. And then I brought it back to Logansport. It took about 3 or 4 months to fix it up. Then I popped my own Futura mold, cast a Futura body, and then it was not lost on me that I was doing the exact same thing George Barris was doing to the real Futura in metal. I was doing to my replica Futura body in fiberglass. Cutting open the wheel wells, bringing the fins onto the doors, bringing the hood scoop down the nose of the car, closing off the headlight hoods, scalloping the fins, and then I made a Batmobile mold, and that's what we're using today to build our Batmobiles. And it all started right here. It saved me about 1.5 years to have this instead of me having the hand sculpted. On the wall, you see photos of the real Futura. Those are some of the last known photos that exist of the Futura. The Ford Rotunda fire in 1962 destroyed all of the blueprints, all the data, destroyed all of the rest of the photos. Those negatives were out on loan at the time, which is the only reason they survived. So what happened in the Ford Rotunda? Why did it catch on fire? Somebody was using a salamander heater on the roof to melt ice and snow for Christmas decorations. The building was made out of fiberglass. It caught fire and it was gone in 45 minutes. So everything inside was destroyed except for the cars. They got those out just barely. Wow, wow. Batgirl was introduced in the 3rd season of the Batman TV show, played by Yvonne Craig. I thought she was a neat addition to the show. I wish she could have had her own spin-off to maybe have some of the actors bounce back and forth between the shows. But unfortunately, the ratings were still not quite good enough. And by the end of 3rd season, the Batman TV show was canceled. The material in Batgirl's costume is called Lurex, L-U-R-E-X. It's metal, little metal shavings that are woven into the fabric. And both Yvonne and Lee Merriweather and Julie and Eartha complained that the Lurex would hold on to the cold in the winter and then it would hold on to the heat in the summer. And Lee Meriwether complained about having little burns on her skin from in the submarine fight when they're up on the deck of the submarine. So, this is the world's first replica of the Batgirl cycle. This was made by Ed Merrill, who was my lead bodyman and painter of my Batmobiles. And he did the research. Nobody had ever done it before. He did the research. He sculpted the fairing. He made a mold, and then he sold 4 or 5 of these to different museums across the country. So I thought he did a spectacular job. And over here we have King Tut, the mild-mannered professor of Egyptology, got hit on the head, and he thought he was a criminal version of the boy king. Well, he's drilling for nylinium underneath of the Batcave, and crashed into the Batcave. It was underneath the Wayne Manor. And he went, wait a minute, as he got into the Batcave. The Batcave is underneath the Wayne Manor. Carry the 3. That means that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And that Dick Grayson was Robin the Boy Wonder. And of course, by the end of the episode, he was hit on the head once again and returned back to being the mild-mannered professor, forgetting all that he had discovered. So we're working on a minecart for him to be standing in, and that will also be one of the photo ops, that people will be able to step into the minecart and lean out from behind King Tut. So I can't wait to get that finished up, so it's pretty exciting.
Of course, any museum has a gift shop, and you can buy shirts and memorabilia, toys, and posters from different Batman. Of course, I have to buy a magnet for my collection to show that I was here. Here's some replicas of Adam West. Movies and video games right here. Some younger kids stuff. Of course, I do have Funko Pops of Batman. Full-scale Michael Keaton. And you even have the Penguin right here. Over here, we have the Michael Keaton Batman, which is my favorite Batmobile. We have some Batman Forever characters and some of the newer stuff. Hats. Now, if you really want to spend a pretty penny, they have a cow statue. Well, okay, Crusaders, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Batman Museum in Indiana. And stay tuned for my next video. Same time, same What's Up Dude channel. For now, this is the What's Up Dude signing off. Please like, share, and subscribe so that I can explore new areas and go to